Most meditators have never heard of Bengali Crease counting, which is unfortunate. I'd like to explain it to you right now. To do that, I'm going to switch modes to button number 5, what I like to call Jumbo Cam. Now, this may be too much, so let's go back to button number 2. Okay. So, Bengali Crease counting is the answer to the question, how can I harness my natural neuroses to time my meditation in a way that causes me to viscerally know how much time I'm spent in meditation and approximately how much time I have left, while simultaneously gently guiding my naturally occurring electromagnetic phenomena within my body in a way that supports the hard work of active sitting. And I think what I'm about to share with you ticks each box, as they would say in the Great British Bake Off. One moment. And welcome aboard. Remember, if at any point, don't be shy. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. This is going to make the most sense when seen through the context of, well, let me back up. So here's my idea. I'm going to give you a broad overview, what some people would call broad brush strokes. And then when we practice tonight's meditation, hopefully it'll all fall into place in your mind. I think it was in junior high when I was first introduced to weightlifting. And they taught us to exercise in terms of repetitions, typically 10, and sets, typically 3. What we're going to do is practice 13 sets of 13 repetitions each. Doing that is going to take about, give or take, 14 minutes. And there's a way of gathering 3 collections of 14 sets of 14 repetitions each. Each one takes a smidget longer. That's just the way the human central nervous system works. The longer we do something, the slower we get. There's nothing mystical or magical about that. That's just the way we have evolved. In previous live streams, I've explained the why. Now I'm going to explain the how. On each hand, on our fingers, we have not only creases, but sets of creases. And so every time we inhale, we can advance our right thumb. Counting the first set of creases, the second set of creases, the third set of creases on our right little finger. We then repeat that on our right ring finger. The 4th and 5th and 6th set of creases. On our middle finger, we would count the 7th, 8th, and 9th set of creases. And then on our index finger, our 10th, 11th, and 12th set of creases. But wait, I promised you a set of 13 repetitions. Where do we get the 13th repetition? And that 13 repetition comes when we place both hands together. When we use the tip of our left index finger to support the bigger knuckle or the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. Not only does that direct our energy towards the top of our head, but it helps us count our first single repetition, our first single inhalation. Then we can count our dozen inhalations that follow. And so the irony is that this counting of our single repetition has a dual purpose. It counts our set, but it also counts our solitary or single inhalation. That is going to sound a little bit weird. It's going to sound a little complex, but repetition is the mother of skill. Come to these live streams approximately once every 12 hours, and within a week or two, this entire system of counting and sitting and breathing in harmony with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems to create a type of neurological hygiene wherein we keep both our default mechanisms and our survival mechanisms, and we help them to reconcile them, the two of them, in a manner most sustainable. So at this point, this is the question of counting 12 additional sets of 1 plus 12 inhalations. And to do that, we incorporate our left hand. We count our lower set of creases on our left little finger. Knock out an additional single repetition or single inhalation, then go back to our right hand, knock out another 12 inhalations. And we do that progressing along the 12 sets of creases of our left hand. And thus we wind up with 13 sets of 13 inhalations each. Completing that takes approximately 14 minutes. When it's time for to gather our second collection of 13 sets of 13 inhalations each, we advance our left index finger along the back side of our right index finger till we come to the middle knuckle. And then the whole process begins again. From here, we count one single inhalation, followed by a dozen inhalations. And then we go back to counting our dozen sets of 12 inhalations each. Or I should say 13 inhalations each. Because every time we advance the left thumb, we practice a solitary inhalation or a solitary repetition. After we've completed our second collection of 13 sets of 13 inhalations each, we have a choice. That choice is simple. Do we progress to the higher knuckle of our right index finger? Or do we shift gears energetically and simply use the tip of our left middle finger to support the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap? Doing so gently invites our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in our chest. Once again, in a way that helps us, that makes prolonged sitting sustainable. And then this gesture serves, and it also serves to help us keep track of our first solitary inhalation, after which we begin tracking our dozen inhalations, and so forth and so on. So you might say, wow, man, 45 minutes, that seems like a difficult thing. Then start off with 30 or just 15. Start off with what you feel comfortable with. For I assure you, if you push yourself too hard, you will develop an aversion. So be gentle with yourself. Don't treat your body and your mind like they are Paris Island recruits. Do not abuse them. Do not be a drill sergeant to yourself. If you practice this correctly, it'll be pleasurable and fun. And you will your subconscious will find ways to make room for it. So let's assume we're just practicing 15 minutes or 14 minutes once every 12 hours or so. Remember, every day we scroll on our phone. Every day we watch TV. That's time we could spend meditating. Remember, we don't meditate so we have bragging points. We meditate so that we are less anxious and we are less cranky and we're less competitive. And we become more like the people that our dogs already think that we are. We become more creative, resourceful, peaceful, and loving. Checking for questions real quick. This is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For multiple decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. So let's return to the idea of a solitary repetition or a solitary inhalation. What is the essence of mindfulness? To silently and mentally recite the verb watch. Each time we passively notice air enter our nostrils. What is the essence of meditation? To silently and mentally recite the verb rest. Each time we subtly notice air exiting our nostrils. Do we do this all day, every day, 24/7? No. We only do this while we're sitting in formal meditation. Or what I would describe as ad hoc meditation. When you feel yourself in a situation of great stress and you would prefer not to have a meltdown, be it in traffic, or conversation, or at the dentist's office. Let us begin inviting our subtle energy to the crown of our head by using the Pasadi Mudra, or meditation gesture, that I explored about 12 hours ago, maybe 11 hours ago. Wherein we use the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger palms up in our lap. This gesture also helps us keep track of our first inhalation, or our first repetition of watch, rest. Now let us practice a dozen repetitions of watch, rest, and let's keep track of it on our right hand. Having completed our first dozen repetitions of watch, rest, we turn our attention to our left thumb and place it upon the lower set of creases, our left little finger. Now let us count a single repetition of watch, rest, followed by an additional dozen repetitions. This system is as effective as it is easy. Counting is a pain in the ass to learn, but once learned, it will serve you well. Don't take my word for it. Put it to the test in the laboratory of your own body and mind. Not through imagination, not through conjecture, but by actually practicing it once every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days. Having completed our dozen repetitions, it's time to advance our left thumb and practice our single repetition of watch, rest. And now that you have the basic idea of how to count multiple repetitions, multiple single repetitions, multiple dozen repetitions, let's rest our hands palms up in our lap. This system is not believing in a real or imagined Buddha. It's not about believing in the Eightfold Path or the Four Noble Truths. It's simply about experimenting with the various facets of our central nervous system so that our life can be as loving and peaceful and resilient as it can be. And so that it can be less short, brutish, and violent. Just as a chef would not clean in a filthy kitchen, we wish to make use of all the wonderful faculties of our body and mind. This simple discipline could prove invaluable. Let's take a moment to review the neuroscience of meditation. When we make the mistake of actively overanalyzing, we so fatigue our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex that it triggers our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. However, when we passively cooperate with both facets of our autonomic nervous system, not only do we experience greater awareness and peace, we wind up inadvertently calming the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, as well as gently stimulating our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. In other words, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access both the tippy top as well as the very bottom of our spinal cord. These two regions, working as a team, function as the core of the parasympathetic aspect of our autonomic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to so thoroughly rest during our exhalation that which we watched during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand, at least a little bit, at least for a moment, until the next inhalation, the whole cycle begins afresh. checking for questions. Having completed our first collection of, having gathered our first collection of 13 sets of 13 inhalations, let us begin gathering our second collection by sliding the tip of our left index finger up the back of our right index finger till it comes to rest upon the middle knuckle of the right index finger. checking for questions. And now it's time for us to shift gears and prepare for the final third of this evening's meditation. We're going to shift gears from the crown to the chest. We're going to shift colors from white to teal. We're going to shift verbs from watch to feel. Forgive the rhyme. We're going to shift gestures from the Pasadi mudra to the Sati mudra, which can translate as mindfulness gesture. It is as simple as using the tip of our left middle finger to support the larger knuckle or the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. We're counting repetitions, but repetitions of what? Every time we passively notice our chest swelling with breath, we can silently and mentally recite the verb feel. Similarly, every time we passively notice our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the verb rest. This is how we practice the essence of mindfulness and meditation. Let's count our first repetition, or silent repetition, of rest and of feel and rest by assuming the mudra. Let us count a dozen repetitions on our right hand together, advancing our thumb during each inhalation. We count our next solitary repetition of rest, or feel rest, by touching the tip of our left thumb to the lower set of creases of our left little finger. Now we return to now we count our next dozen repetitions of feel and rest on our right hand. So we now, in preparation for our next solitary repetition of feel rest, we advance our left thumb. Now that we have a good idea of how we can count our solitary repetitions as well as our dozen repetitions, let us rest our hands palms up in our lap. Let us review the neuroscience of mindfulness. When we make the mistake of actively over-focusing, we so exhaust our medial prefrontal cortex that it triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. When we authentically practice mindfulness and meditation in passive cooperation with both facets of our autonomic nervous system, it calms our anxiety and aggression and stimulates our empathy. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as the core of the sympathetic aspect of our autonomic nervous system. It has evolved to cause us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. All of them. From the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the convenient to the arduous, from the glorious to the grotesque. Let us continue. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. And if you, oopsie, wrong one, in approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's dawn practice of Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.